welcome to Bahamarican. I am half of the host from the Bahamas, Timmy.
And I am Bryan Fonseca, and joining us today, we have Sean Rochester, part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network family.
Our resident coach and basketball intelligent person, so we're actually going to talk. We're not going with any hot takes today. We're talking actual basketball.
Maybe.
That sounds good.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Host of Pace and Spaces, and you see him on a whole bunch of other stuff. Sean, you could let the people know everything else that you do at the network. I'm sure that they know. If they're here, they probably know, but you can reiterate it, throughout the credentials, the bona fides.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at SRochesterNBA. I do Paces and Spaces at halftime of all the Heat games with Marco and Tony. I appear here and there on other 5 Reasons YouTube stuff when I have time. Like I'm in season right now, so once I get out of the season, I'm ready to do some more stuff and get back into it. And the morning after games, I always got the Duncan Robinson stats. So filter it, make it look good. It takes a couple hours to run it through the filter, wash it clean, and make it sound nice. But by the morning, I always have it ready.
Where are you up to right now? Are you guys in the semifinals? Y'all playing for states, cities? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, so we're 14-2. We lost to the same team twice, a bigger school than us. So we play tomorrow. Is the beginning of our state tournament. So we're in the independent. We're not in the state league, like the PIAA. We're in it's called the PESA. So we have the semifinals tomorrow at home. We're the 1 seed, so we have a home path to a state championship, which is always a good thing.
Awesome.
So a game tomorrow, then back to our league tournament on Tuesday. We're the 2 seed, so we play a team that we've beaten twice. So hopefully we can get a dub there. Then we would play again Wednesday if we win on Monday, and then on Thursday we'd play for our league championship. So 4 games in 4 days. That's toughness right there, baby. Toughness.
You've been talking about a lot of 1 seeds, huh? This season, you got the Heat, you got your girls. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's right. That's right, man.
Timmy, I know you have questions for Coach Sean here before we get into our Heat bag later on.
Yeah, so I was just curious and what got you into coaching. Talk to us a bit about the quick little journey there.
Yeah, I mean, I played growing up. My mom lived in Miami, so I lived with her when I was younger, and then moved back with my dad in Ohio.
That explains.
And when I would go back,
yes,
huh?
That explains.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all Miami teams. I was blessed to move from Ohio to Miami with my mom when I was young, and picked up those teams in the late 80s.
Imagine if you were like a Cavs and
oh, dude, yeah. So growing up, all my friends
also
were Cavs.
moved from Ohio to Miami. To be fair, so that's good company.
True. But yeah, I would come back and see my mom in the summertime, and I went to Heat camps. The first Heat camp, it used to be Tony Fiorentino basketball camp.
Right.
And it used to be Glenn Rice basketball camp. So I went to those camps in the summertime. And then once I got into high school, I started working for Heat camp for Tony Fiorentino all the way through college. And that was really kind of my initiation into coaching. I liked basketball. I liked playing. And I worked with him. I did camps. I've been doing camps really ever since. I work Sixers camp now. I'm a director for the 76ers camps. Awesome. Don't hold that against me. I don't.
It's fine. It's fine.
I have to wear the Sixers logo, but legit, I always wear a Heat shirt underneath so that doesn't touch my skin, And I take a shower when I come home. It's money. It's a paycheck, you have to take care of the money, So
no judging.
And then I also in college, I went to Bowling Green, which is in Northwest Ohio. And
B1.
I had a person introduce me to the women's practice squad. So that's what really got me into coaching girls is I worked with the women's program. And the coach at the time was Kurt Miller. Kurt Miller now is the Connecticut Sun head coach.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's went from there. They had a very successful team. They went to the NCAA tournament every year. They went to the Sweet 16 my last year there. And so I just soaked up whatever I could do with him. Tell me, I would learn, let's say, what Eastern Michigan was going to do in the next game. And then I would teach it to the other guys on the practice squad. So in a way, I was learning how to scout. I was learning how to teach someone how to run an offense, tendencies, and all those things from a guy that's now one of the best coaches in the WNBA. So it's a pretty cool, that's how I kind of got into it. And then when I went to be a teacher, then I kind of moved up the ranks going middle school, JV, high school, and now, doing that in AAU now.
Guy who was
WNBA is next.
Yeah, I mean, well, who was one of the best coaches in WNBA, Timmy. Who does he coach over there at the Connecticut side?
I think he coaches the I forget the name. I think his name was Jonquel Jones, another Bahamian who's the MVP. You know.
Yeah. From where is she from, Timmy?
The Bahamas.
Yeah.
Just had to sprinkle that on the podcast.
That's right.
That's right.
That's good stuff, man. That's awesome stuff. So honestly, I can't wait now to in 2 to 3 years coach Sean of a WNBA squad.
I mean,
is that an active goal you pursuing, or are you just letting life happen to you right now?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like right now, moving up to Philadelphia 2 years ago, I was in Hilton Head. I was very close to where Greg Sylvander lives in Charleston. So I was just down the coast, small island community. It just is not a big basketball area. So I was doing lots of things there. I was a high school coach. We won 2 region championships in my 5 years. There's 5 region championships in the school's history. We did 2 of them in 5 years. So we had accomplished a lot there, but I was like, I need more. And so my girlfriend got a job up here in Philly. I came up right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm coaching AAU here for a group called the Comets. They're in the Under Armour Association. And then, I got a job at this. It's a small school, but it's a stepping stone. Like I wasn't going to come up to Philly and just automatically get a job at like a Philly Catholic school, like a Catholic League school or something like that. So it's kind of, just moving up the ladder and, doing stuff here, and we'll see what it takes. If it's a bigger high school job, college job, WNBA, absolutely. That's a dream.
And that's so crazy because, like you said, you started in the pandemic. We haven't had high school sports in the Bahamas since the pandemic. It's been 2 years. These kids have not played sports like at all. So like we've been advocating, begging. So it looks like March. We might get it back after March 2020. So that's the hope.
Yeah, last year was my first year here, and the first season here as a new coach, I had no games. We practiced like here and there, but like we were very limited in what we could do. So that was hard. I mean, it's not even about as a coach. It's hard for the kids because that's an outlet for a lot of kids to keep them motivated and doing things. So yeah, it's the same thing here. A lot of places didn't have seasons last year, and this year it's back to somewhat normal, but not exactly.
I imagine that as a coach, you probably can't help but watch basketball, through that lens, especially when you see certain things with the Heat or whomever you're watching. Like, is that something that holds up? And do you feel like it generally helps you when you're watching games? And could it also offer up some oversights in some areas, you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot more parallels to like the college game, watching a high school game and a college game because of the strategy and whatnot. Some of the things that they just don't apply in the NBA. But no, I mean, you watch it from that lens for sure. You're looking at, what is the other team trying to do? You can identify pretty quickly, what defenses are in and things like that. We have obviously on the network guys like Brady Hawk that he doesn't have that coaching background, but his eye for that is probably even better than mine for sure. Like he just identifies stuff and can break it down on film like crazy. And there's lots of people like that. Nikias and Steve Jones, the stuff that they do. It's, I think the education of basketball fans generally now is so much higher than before because you have so much access to video and information. It helps anybody, even the novice that has never even played, can watch film and be like, oh, that's a Spain pick and roll. Oh, they're in a 2-2-1. Oh, they're, whatever they're doing. So yeah, definitely.
So before Brian goes on, I think this Patrick Ewing just got an extension at Georgetown just now.
Really?
Yeah, just now.
That's news to me. That just happened now.
Yeah, like
despite
just now.
Despite the season they're having.
Yeah, just now. So I know you that's the guy.
Look, the season they're having is not his fault. He keeps losing recruits mid-season, and Sean could attest to this. Like, that is tough. You know what I mean? Like, roster turnover middle of the year, something that doesn't happen in high school so much as it happens in college. But, I mean, I'm sure that at the high school level, you still have to deal with transfers, which are happening now more than ever. Just could you, like, walk us through that process now, like, just being a high school coach now, and what is that like at that level? Because it's a very different landscape from when even I played, and it's not that long ago that I played in high school. So,
sure, I can give it to you from two sides. So when I was in Hilton Head, I was at Hilton Head High School, a public school, about 1,400 kids, biggest public school in that area. And we had 2 private schools on the island. So one of them, Hilton Head Christian Academy, is a perennial, like they're going for 4 state championships in a row. So they can recruit. I can't. I'm a public school coach. So in that aspect, I'm just trying to make my program visible. And a big thing now, same thing with colleges, using Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that, putting it out there, showing what you're doing, like community service, showing what your kids are doing off the court, showing what you're doing on the court, highlights from huddle and things like that. If you don't do that nowadays, your program is so far behind. And you're not even talking about recruiting or things like that. It's just that is what is expected at this point as a coach that you're doing. And now I'm in Philadelphia. I'm at a small private school. Technically speaking, can we recruit? Yes, but you have to build that foundation. Like you can't just, it's not like you're going out there with a bag of money or something like that. You know what I mean? Like you're going to, these kids are coming to these schools as with parents that want a certain type of education. They want access to certain programs, facilities, and things like that. And so that's something that on that aspect, I'm trying to build up with my program, because I do the Twitter and the Instagram and the huddle highlights and things like that. But then it's starting like with the AD to start taking things to the next step, having a shooting machine, having, going to tournaments and things like that. It just takes time to build that part of it up.
Those resources matter so damn much. Like I remember like when we were in high school, this was a big difference. And for me, I played, so the way New York works, at least because in public schools it's AAAB. That's it. I went to a private school, but an independent private school, and really a ghetto private school. Like it was not really a private school. It was only a private school in tuition only, which I only could afford because I was a sponsored kid. We was broke. So basically the private school level would be AAA, B, C, and D. We were like a B, C, like we would sort of fluctuate, whatever the case may be. And our coaches, for whatever reason, like didn't really update our scores on Max Preps, didn't upload our stats. Like they weren't really active with all that shit. And that shit matters a ton, right? They were bad at keeping the books. Like we just had bad stat keepers. I remember one game where I counted, because I was a freak about this stuff. I was chasing the assist record. There was one game where I had 11 assists, and I checked with the stat book person after the game. We won. So I wasn't being a dick about it. We won. I checked after a win, and I had like 6. I was heated. I was irrationally heated. Like it was bad. But the girls' teams at our school, they had all their stats on Max Preps. The coach would upload them and be proactive about that. So yeah, those resources, to your point, like that shit just matters so much, even now, because you would think that there's just more exposure now with these kids because there's social media, but it's like it's also like everyone is fluctuating their stuff out now. So it becomes harder to find in a way, even though it's out there more.
So
exactly.
I have a question for Sean, and me and Brian discussed this. So like I said, Jaguel, my sister from the same soil, she tweeted something last week saying, in this day and age, you have to, she's an MVP, but she isn't getting any of the endorsements and stuff as like say a Liz Cambage or like a Brittany Griner. And then there's always the running like comparison. The NBA gets so much money. I did not know that a max contract for the WNBA player was basically $250,000 till last week. And we know like a minimum in the NBA is like basically $1 million. How
it used to be less. They
right.
just recently, redid the CBA.
So how do you see, if possible, like we could just bridge gap? Because like we who care about basketball, we don't care if it's man or woman. Like people saying, oh, if you lower the rim to 9 foot and women dunk more, I don't think there's any merit to that. Like if you love basketball, like I love watching WNBA games, but and they're trying to be more active on social media. What do you as someone who's on like way in the ground, you're coaching these ladies from young, what do you see are like the gaps and how could they be filled to get WNBA where it needs to be, marketing and media wise, like in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the salaries and the pay, I think the argument that always comes into this is you're going to have to make more money to pay them the money that they, you know what I mean? Like you can't just pay them and have these businesses go underwater. Like that doesn't make sense. So how do you get more exposure to them to make more money, get more people in the stands, get more money off your TV deal and things like that? And I think that's, like you said, just like promoting the talent, because the talent in the girls' game is just blowing up now. You just
college
like,
too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like you watch, I mean, like when I was in Hilton Head, I watched Asia Wilson play as a senior in high school. Like that was sick. Like there's nothing you can do. She's just nasty. I mean, like it doesn't, like that's where like sometimes as males, like you have guys that are like, I'm not watching the WNBA. If you like basketball, you watch the WNBA too. Like straight up, because they run great stuff. They execute at a high level.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
The fundamentals, the ability for everyone
Beautiful.
to handle and shoot, it's so beautiful. But if you're caught up on the fact just because they're females, you're not going to watch it, like, what's that about? Like, I don't understand. Like, to me, there's very low level Division I men's basketball, but we still watch that. Like, you just talked about Georgetown. Like, Georgetown's been in the gutter a couple of times. Like, that's what I mean. Like, people still support that, even though they might be struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So
Georgetown did have Omer Yurtseven. I will say
they did.
They weren't that good that year. But no, Sean, to your point, like it's like, and I know this because like watching our girls' high school teams, by the way, like they would go on and win conference championships and things of that nature. Like they were good. And I was somebody, this is I guess one of our parallels, because you talked about your experience around the women's team Bowling Green. As a former assistant SID at St. Francis here in Brooklyn, Northeast Conference, I was traveling with our women's team for a couple seasons, right? And you watch it and it's like, yeah, like it's still good basketball. It's not WNBA high level, but shit, it ain't Division III basketball either. Like you can find good basketball anywhere. And to me, I'm somebody who watches the NBA through a lens of like, I don't care about athleticism as much as the average person. Like a lot of people, that's something that a lot of guys would say that's generally sexist. It's like, I don't watch the WNBA because they can't dunk. And like, yo, I don't need to see a dunk.
I automatically, like, I shut off after I hear
I don't need to see a dunk in a basketball game. Like, I don't care. The All-Star game is tonight, the day of we're recording this. If we don't see a dunk, we're going to see like 50,000 dunks. Mm-hmm. But if we didn't see a dunk in the All-Star game, I wouldn't care, right? Yeah. Like, it doesn't make a difference to me. So, yeah.
But I do like, Balvalanas is like one of the biggest NCAA tournaments that happens here. This year, after 10 years, they finally added women. And that was awesome to see, like these girls, like for the guys, this is normal. Like most of the teams, this is like the third or fourth time. But the girls, like, they were having so much fun. Like, so I'm happy to see that there's starting to be things put in place, at least be like equal opportunity. As a girl dad, she probably gonna end up doing soccer. But like, I just happy that there's a chance for her to love basketball and don't have to like worry about all these type of things. So I just hope in 10 years from now we could see a much more progressive type of just not even the fan, but just like the marketing. Because like back to Jonquil, like she said, you know, like Liz Cambage has a deal with Fenty. So of course she's wearing lingerie and she has almost 1 million followers. So of course that's what the marketing
and
people are going to. Yeah, she has OnlyFans. So of course the marketing money is going to pay for that. You know. Yeah. Something you can't escape.
Let's awkwardly transition to the Miami Heat now, who are 38-21.
The last game before the season paused was saved by Duncan Robinson.
Yeah. Well, and also they got a free point from a Kyle Lowry 2-pointer.
Yeah,
it was called the 3. But look, hey, like, you know, maybe the Heat were due for one because they've had some bad karma come their way all season long. Yeah. As of this recording, I think their top 4 players, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, have played like 59 minutes together. This show might go for less than 59 minutes, just so you know how long or short that is. So right now, the Heat are 38-21, first in the East, I believe, tied with the Chicago Bulls. They won something along the lines of 6 of their last 7 heading into this All-Star break. And it's a little weird because the All-Star break is usually like teams are around 54, 55 games played. The Heat are already at 59. A lot of teams are reaching that 60 mark. So we're basically 75% of the way done with the regular season. And after this, the Heat are going to have 23 games, 16 at home. There's no big road trips. There's one road trip of 3 games later this year, but that's it. So Sean, like, where do you stand on the Heat right now, just in terms of like, how would you take in this season so far, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, to your point about the schedule that's upcoming, next Friday, the first game after the All-Star break is in New York. So I think Michael from 5 Reasons, Mr. Michael, we want to call him. I'm sure a lot of us appreciate that.
Michael will watch this and his head would blow because I used to see their podcast like, stop calling me that.
Mr. Michael will be there. I'm planning on being there. So I would, like I told you, my schedule, 4 games in 4 days. Then Friday, we have an off day. I think I can get up. And then if we are playing for the state championship, it'd be Saturday night. So I'm going to try to make that happen. I appreciate the tag, Alejandro. Yeah, we need to put that out. We'll clip that. That's one of the road games. The following week, I think it's Wednesday, they play in Brooklyn. So that's what, like March 1st, March 2nd. Yeah. They play in Philly like the 21st. That's their next road game after that Brooklyn game. It's like 2.5, 3 weeks later, they don't come back off the road. They're at home for the entire month of March, which is a great thing. The schedule's not that easy, though. They play good teams over that, but at home, we've been very good.
Yeah.
And so looking at what we've done so far, we've had a great ability to just have people step up. And I think that's a lot of credit to the main pieces that were on the floor at those times, but also the coaching staff. Eric Spoelstra is a wizard at making people fit, adjusting his style, adjusting his game plan. Sometimes we're shooting a lot of threes. Sometimes we're not shooting threes. Sometimes we're 2-2-1 pressing. Sometimes we're sitting back. Sometimes we're playing zone. Like, he just makes it work. And it's that kind of heat culture mentality. No excuses. Let's just get it done. Put out 5 guys on the floor and we'll figure out how to get this. Even if we don't have our superstars, we're going to find a way to compete. And a lot of times they got wins.
Yeah, I think some of the macro has been lost on Heat Twitter, just observing. As somebody who is generally like an outsider too, like I'm not like knee deep in the shits the way you and some other people are as part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. But like I'll come in and I'll see like, first of all, like the play-by-play analysis during games. Like I warn people, like it can be very excruciating just because like you get so wrapped up into what you're watching now. And Twitter and social media in general just incentivizes you to sort of do that because you can, quote unquote, gain your following that way. But it's also nauseating and exhausting. And you're just going to like, give yourself some mental health issues if you keep going down that rabbit hole.
I literally can do it every single game.
Yeah. So the point of me bringing that up, though, is like I think some perspective has been lost. It's like, let's say it again. First in the Eastern Conference, which I think anybody under whatever circumstances would have signed up for. And then when I tell you that their best 4 players have played a podcast length of court time together, then you'd be like, nah, get out of here. They'd probably be like 30-30 or something like that. But no, they're 17 games above 500. And because they have all the home games coming up, Sean, you mentioned the stretch, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Me and Timmy, I think both think this. They're probably going to start peaking in March. Oladipo should be coming back theoretically around that time. You're going to have all those home games. They can get on a little run here, perhaps get the 1 seed, which I think they should try to go for since it's right there within reach. And who knows, beyond that. So is it reasonable to expect that given the injuries beforehand, earlier this season, given how everybody's sort of playing now and health and things of that nature may finally come together, knock on wood, and with Oladipo coming back, are you expecting them to peak in March?
Yeah, and you know that Eric Spoelstra always performs very well after the All-Star break.
Awesome.
Now,
great point.
I hope a weekend in Cleveland doesn't take that away from him. I don't know if he's going to, but I'm sure you're in Cleveland, right? You can sit in your hotel room in like the airport Sheraton or whatever they're staying in and, scheme up some stuff. So
he probably is right now. Yeah.
Yeah, really, for real. It's too cold outside to go outside.
Like everyone relaxing. He's like, what can I do against this team in 2 months?
Yeah.
I picture him like on like this like chessboard of like basketball. He's like moving pieces around. Like, who should I put next to Bam? Like, no, it's one of those things where I agree. Like, we have it right in front of us. We have a veteran team that was not supposed to be a regular season team, right? We were supposed to be the coasting team that was going to peak in the playoffs. We haven't done that. We've done very well all season. So I think with those home games, our veterans are going to lead us through. The Kyle Lowrys, the Jimmy Butlers, Bam Adebayo that have been in these situations before know the importance of going into the playoffs on a high note. Not, hey, we had a good first 2/3 of the season and now we're kind of, hoping to get to the playoffs. Kind of like how we were hoping to get to the All-Star break, but we still won a lot of those games. Like people kept saying, oh, it's 1 game before the All-Star, 2 games before the All-Star, but we still took care of business. Like it's a team that I feel like understands who they are and what they need to do in a very strong way.
And I think that with Kyle Lowry, especially what we saw in Charlotte, because I think people forgot those 2 weeks that he missed. Like you see the difference when he's out there versus when he's not. And the big thing that people are talking about that we have questions about is their late game offense, especially compared to the Nets. It's like you figure, okay, they have KD, Kyrie, they can probably just figure some shit out. Now they have to get out of the play-in most likely, but they can just figure something out. Milwaukee,
I do
Giannis,
like
and Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, like all of these guys, like they have like DeMar DeRozan in Chicago, and the Heat they haven't quite nailed it yet. But I do think that it's going to get better once everybody's healthy and they can figure some stuff out, as opposed to just, I guess, playing Jimmy ball, for lack of a better term. I imagine that has to drive you crazy as a coach sometimes.
Yeah. And to your point about, like the Heat Twitter game threads, I just stay off of it because of this. It's chaos. Like you will drive yourself nuts. And I know you guys are newer members of the pool party, but like that was created a year ago when they went out west and we were losing those games at like 1 a.m. when we should have won and we would blow it late.
It's an awful time to create those. Jesus.
But we created it. It was literally the concept was like we need a chat, an area that we are safe from all this chaos, that we can talk basketball in an educated way. Like that was literally the tweet. And people started like, yo, let me in. Like Greg was one of the first people. Yo, let me in. Then like it turned into kind of like a mixture of 5 Reasons people, Miami Heat beat people, Locked On Heat. And now we have like kind of a core group that like in games, if I'm available, I'm in there. I'm not on the timeline. Like, because even though it gets chaotic in there sometimes, but like look at it from a
in comparison. Woo, it's
in comparison,
less people, less strangers that could get in. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like we really like use that as like that's the safe place, that's the safe house, and we don't make sure the doors are locked and deadbolted because if the crazy people get in, then you're in trouble. But talking about the late game offense, it is actually a conversation that was had in there yesterday. I don't know if you all saw it, but like a lot of people pointed towards pace. Like we're not a team that plays with pace as much as people want to point to it. And I know you see those Kyle Lowry hit aheads, which are beautiful, but that's not necessarily pace. Like I think we're bottom 3 in pace.
Yeah, we're very low in pace. Yeah.
It's opportunistic. When we get steals, we push. When we are very good on the defensive rebounds, which generally are, we take opportunities to push when Kyle's in the game. Gabe doesn't play that way. Tyler doesn't play that way. If we can get out into the open floor, that's great. But in the playoffs and in late game situations, you don't get that opportunity very often. So I think it's more so about ball movement, player movement. Like the ball cannot stick in Jimmy's hands.
And that's what really hurt. Like I first 3 quarters, beautiful movement. But like the last 5 minutes of a game, Jimmy. So that's why I'm personally more give it to Lowry. At least Lowry's going to run a pick and roll, or maybe then he posts. I rather Jimmy post up than try to run a pick and roll, honestly. Or even if Lowry does a step back jumper, I watched the finals against the Warriors. I trust Lowry in that situation to make the right play. Like I watched Lowry go head to head with Stephen Curry and win a ring.
Yeah,
not him alone, but I trust them.
And I don't feel like I know the numbers do not agree with this, but it's not that I don't trust Jimmy. Give Jimmy the ball at the end of the game. I trust him, but he has to make better decisions more consistently.
Yeah,
a fadeaway jump shot from 18 feet contested is not a good shot. Anytime in the game, as good of a player as he is, it's not a good shot. Move the ball side to side. I guarantee the numbers, and I know the coaching staff has this stuff, and I'm sure it's available somewhere, but when the ball goes side to side, it touches multiple sides of the floor, we get better offense. When you have more movement, player movement, ball movement, I guarantee our points per possession are higher. But at the end of the game, that's the NBA. It's not just the Heat. It slows down. You play iso ball. 4 flat across the baseline, and let's see what our guy can do. And I just don't know if that always works out best for us when we're so good at movement. I just think that's what we have to try to figure out.
All right, let's talk about Duncan Robinson. we waited long enough. You are known as the Duncan guy on Twitter. To a lot of people, they peg you that way. I don't know if it's fair or unfair. As you mentioned, Timmy and I are sort of late to the party, so I don't know the origins of you and Duncan Robinson taking on pockets of Heat Twitter and getting people on your side and this being some divisive thing. I imagine that Duncan Robinson has become a more divisive player ever since that contract extension was signed, which we're going to get to. But just lay out the entire Duncan Robinson thing and case and, all that for us.
I'm going to be very honest. Nobody's going to believe this, but I used to hate Duncan Robinson.
But that's how it happens sometimes.
On my life.
That's how it happens sometimes.
When he first came up, that was the last year that Wade was here, right? Remember he came up. He had the alley-oop dunk in the Brooklyn game, Wade's last game.
I was there for that.
Yeah. I was like, all right, this guy's okay. He has some talent. I remember from Michigan. And then that next year, that was Jimmy's first year, he got elevated, and people were like, "Whoa, what's up with this guy and Kendrick Nunn playing these big roles? Like, who are these guys?" I used to hate him. Get his trash off the floor. Like, I did not trust him, and then he just kept making them. I was always wrong, and so it's funny. Like, my girlfriend was like, for whatever reason, she was like, "I like that Duncan Robinson guy." I'm like, "Man, Duncan Robinson is a scrub." I was at who did we play? Oh, we played the Warriors. So when it was like right around Thanksgiving of 2019. Yeah, 2019, I think. Yeah, 2019. Right. Yeah. So when Steph Curry was hurt, I went down there. The Eagles played the Dolphins. I was down there for Thanksgiving weekend. We went to the Warriors game. We were in the back, walking through like the area to get to player parking. And me, Duncan Robinson, and me and my girlfriend walked past each other. And she was like, that was Duncan Robinson? And I was like, yep. Like, I was like, who cares? Like, I am not wasting my Apple memory to get a picture with him. I'm not, like, we are going to beat traffic. Like, let's keep it moving. So, like, I'm telling you, I did not like Duncan Robinson. And as he continued to play better and better, I started to support him. Before I knew you guys, my Twitter handle used to be Philly Heat, but my little tagline thing was Dr. Struce. I was a Max Struce guy. And now I basically have had to flip, and now I can't say anything about Duncan without putting down Struce because, you know, you can't be on both of them. You got to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And at this point, honestly, guys, like, it's a bit at this point. Every morning, I'm going to post that freaking Duncan Robinson past however many games. It's like part of my morning routine. Like, I remember, we had a game last night. I'm going to eat some oatmeal. I'm going to have a Red Bull before I get on the road, and I'm going to post my Duncan Robinson tweet. And it's like, I just do it every day now. And it's like, people are like, oh, you only do it when he does good. No, I've done it every day, every game, regardless of how he shoots. I'm going to do it every game because I think it's funny now because people are like, well, you just always support Duncan Robinson, blah, 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 blah. Like, I respect his game. I think he's a good player. I understand his limitations. If he gets traded this summer, I get it. He's the most movable contract.
Yeah.
I would have understood at the trade deadline, but there was nobody out there I feel like that was attainable. Yeah, it's, to me, like, it's funny now, but I'll defend him. Like, I'm all you can bring the smoke and I'll just keep going at it.
See Twitter. You see the difference between Twitter and real life? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because you would think one thing, you would think that, like, Sean's like the biggest Duncan Robinson stat or whatever. But, like, I can sort of read through things and I'm like, I could tell, like, Sean's like leading into this, and this is good because Twitter, you just got to lead into shit sometimes. You know what I mean? I was leaning into Juan Toscano Anderson's dunks yesterday, even though he, flopped at the end of the dunk contest. He's Mexican, I'm Puerto Rican. We got to support each other and shit. So that's.
I'll be honest. I fell asleep in the first round.
I didn't watch the skills. I didn't watch the skills at all.
We don't have to get into that because it's not worth talking about. But regarding the Duncan Robinson thing, so, like, was it just that he kept making shots and you just had to flip? Was it that simple?
Yeah, I mean, I respect what he does, like, in terms of, like, the basketball movement, the cutting, constant movement, like. In terms of my coaching philosophy, like, we run a read and react system, or kind of a Villanova motion system, which is generally speaking 5 out, constantly cutting. Yep. It's very much read and react where I'm not calling anything. I have not called a single offensive play the entire season this year through 16 games.
Beautiful.
The players all know they have reads and triggers. They pass the ball. They have the option to cut. They have the option to screen away. They have the option to screen the ball. If they screen away, they can curl, they can backdoor, they can slip. It's all them.
Yep.
You can go from 5 out to 4 out, 1 in. And I just respect the way that he plays because it creates so much for everybody else. And that's where I think, earlier you talked about having an eye for basketball. Like, people talk about gravity and people get, like, very defensive about that. Like, gravity is not real. Duncan does not do anything. It's real. Watch him move off the ball and people pay attention to him, which creates opportunities for other people. I guarantee the people on the Heat, the staff and the players appreciate Duncan Robinson, even when he's not hitting, because the attention it brings to him and helps them be better players.
My thing with him is, like, because I remember him at Michigan, and it was, I was like, all right, cool, white dude that can shoot. College, you see that a lot, right? Like, like, it was cool, sure. Whatever. I didn't come away thinking that he would end up making it into the NBA. I would mostly watch, like, Michigan because, like, I remember they had Tim Hardaway Jr. at one point. They weren't on the same team. Karis LeVert, I think they were teammates for maybe a year or something like that, but they have some good players and others that I probably am forgetting about right now. So he was somebody to me where I'm like, okay, it's cool, spot up shooter. We've seen that before. And then he started making 3-pointers with the Heat, and it's like, oh, like, there's something here. His overall in 2K20 started off at like a 67 and went to like a 76, I think, by the end of the season when they were in the bubble, which is nuts. So, like, he clearly is like a special 3-point shooter. Now, my question was, like, well, one, I thought the money was a lot. Like, it just felt like a lot. Like, as I told Greg, I was like, are they kind of bidding them against themselves there? Like, did they really need to give him 90 over 5 years? Could they? Was he going to say no to like 50 over 3 years or something like that? And then it's like, all right, could he start adding more to this and not just be the 3-point shooter? And we've seen it a little bit to his credit, right? Like those bounce passes when he gets double, just fitting it right through the double team, finding Bam or whoever it is, or just like actually driving and using a little floater that he's trying to add. Like he hasn't really perfected it or anything like that, but he's made a few. We saw it against Charlotte. Like he was having some success there. Timmy, you want to jump in here? You look like you were about to say something.
No. I was texting somebody, but no, I'm just confused as to the usual, like if you watch our season, right, and you watch like Duncan, the Lakers, they like sorry, this is interesting. I was talking to a Laker fan, and like look who their shooters are: Wayne Ellington and Bazemore. Like imagine if Duncan was with LeBron right now, or if he didn't botch the trade with Buddy. You know?
But that's the thing. A lot of people, but that's where I think Duncan's still going to have value if they do want to flip him over the summer, because he's going to have that big contract, but he's still going to be somebody who you want to put him next to somebody. But it's just a matter of like, what are the Heat going to get with that, which we can probably get to.
But we talked about that all during the trade deadline, and the best you could have got maybe was like a Wood or
Marcus.
Marcus Morris. And like, if that's the best, then maybe you're better off just seeing what Depot gets. And my biggest question I was waiting for the answer is, who do you think Sean should be if everyone's healthy? Because Spo plays maybe the 8 that plays in playoffs.
Ooh.
Wow, that's a tough question. To me, my answer to that has always been, I think it's going to change matchup by matchup. Hopefully we have more than one series, but it could change on a game by game basis. Like I think if you're talking a closing lineup and we are up by 6 points with 2 minutes left, I would go more towards a Depot or even a Gabe Vincent or a Caleb, where you have the defensive side. If you're down, like you saw in Charlotte, like Duncan Robinson, part of it was there was a lot of guys out, but like if you need buckets, you might have to close with him, and you have the defensive liability, but you have the ability for him to knock down threes. And I think you can see the same thing with Tyler, where he can get you a bucket. He might give up a little bit on defense. It's situational, consistently. I mean, obviously I would go Bam, Jimmy, Kyle, Tyler, who did I forget? PJ. That would be my 5 in a consistent basis. If you made me give me 5 names, that would be my 5.
Yeah.
But who knows what Depot, like you just don't know what you're going to see with him until we actually see him on the court. If he's anywhere close to what he was, that all-star Depot 3 years ago, now you have a very interesting conversation. But it's a good thing to have that problem, right? You have so many guys that can fit into that. And it'll be interesting. I'd rather have options than go through what we had last year, where Spo's looking at the bench and he's like, oh, man, like, am I really going to put Trevor Ariza back in there or Andre Iguodala back in there? Now he has all these options. It's a blessing to have all those options.
Yeah, I agree. I think to answer that, like the playoff rotation thing, because for me, I'm kind of in the same boat where like my 5 to close, generally speaking, right, would just be Kyle, Tyler, Butler, PJ, and Bam. But if Duncan has it going, to your point,
like the Charlotte game,
I would want to probably slide him in, specifically if he has it going and Tyler doesn't, right? And it's like, all right, so Duncan could slide in there and finish. It's because it's all about the 2 spot. I feel like we can comfortably say Kyle, Jimmy, PJ, Bam close every game. It's all about, for me, that 5th spot is going to be Tyler. I feel like generally speaking, if Duncan has it going, it's him. I think if you need defense though, and Oladipo can show that, then Oladipo would probably be the guy.
And the only other 2 guys that I would say could get into that conversation are Caleb and Gabe.
Yes.
Because they play defense, because they can handle the ball. Gabe can hit an outside shot when he's not consistent, but he has shown the ability to do that. Caleb gives you that rim pressure. I don't think Max Strus is in that conversation, though.
Yeah,
defensive liabilities.
Maybe the last 3 weeks, I've really said I don't think Strus makes the rotation if everyone's healthy for the playoffs. I don't see it.
But it would be wrong to say too, because 2 months ago I was saying the same thing about Duncan, right? Shooters go through slumps, and I think Duncan's a better shooter, but Max is just going through a bad stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he sounded like when he talked to Greg, he sounded like he was ready for this All-Star break.
Yeah, that's definitely
Like
true.
so, because someone we spoke about these guys who never played this much minutes ever in their whole career. Like they probably played more minutes in this first half than their whole career combined. So of course, maybe they're getting a bit, fatigued.
Yeah, I mean, Strus had a torn ACL a couple years ago, so.
And the more you play those guys, they're marginal talents. Like, let's not make it. We're not saying that to be negative. Like, they're just that's who they are. They're on two ways. They're on minimum contracts. The more you play them, the more they're going to get exposed.
Yeah, flaws.
That's why they're lower level players. It doesn't mean that they're not good. They're better than their contracts. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But when you put them out there for bigger sample sizes, that's when they start to have issues. That's when you see Max get exposed on defense. You see Omer, start to get exposed on defense. Like they all have bright spots, but at the same time, they have their negatives too that you start to see too.
Yeah, this is why you got to get healthy because if you're really going to compete, like you're going to need all your guys there. And we haven't spoken about Markieff Morris. I don't even know like if he's going to play at some point. But
so I think they must think he's coming back because he didn't trade him. That's my personal opinion. I think they must think he's going to play. They didn't even like dump him because they can send him to OKC too with and like pay money for him to be waived. So I think they must think he's coming back.
In theory, I thought that he was going to be in their playoff rotation. Now I'm not as sure. I mean, we'll see because he looked all right, like those 10 games or whatever it was before he got hurt. So
he just gives you a different look than Caleb at 4, PJ at 4, even Duncan at 4. It's just a different. He can play the 5 for you too. You can go small ball
in the bubble. He played a lot of 5. He played a lot of 5 in the bubble.
Yeah. That's one of the things. Him and Depot both coming back hopefully next week. That'll be interesting to see how they fit.
And I think, I know everyone's saying such a bad injury, but I saw what Depot did with a torn quad last season. If it's actually fixed, I'm kind of like excited to see what he actually does.
And they're not going to need, that's the key for the Depot thing for me is like, they're not going to need him to do that much. Like there will come a time where they're going to depend on him in a couple big spots to get a big stop. Like when Kyrie was going crazy and he ended up winning, one of the things I was thinking of, all right, this is where you could use Depot to try to throw him on and give him a different look because Gabe, while he had a good effort, like there were a couple times where it's like, all right, you drop back too much and then Duncan has to try to come up and then the double team is late. So Kyrie's just going to pull up from 28 because he can do that, right? Oladipo being there, it gives him a different look. Maybe that helps alleviates things.
I still remember Depot going head to head with LeBron, like what 4 years ago. Like that's not too far ago. So I'm actually pretty excited.
He's so good playing passing lanes too.
Yes.
So that's where like you have these strong defenders around him. We talked about the closing lineup. If you have those 4 guys out there with him, you have no weak defenders on the ball. Everybody can switch. Everybody can keep the ball in front of them. And now that allows you as a help defender, whether it's Depot, Bam, whomever, jumping passing lanes. It's such a, that lineup, if you're up by 6 with a minute and a half left, start the bus.
Yeah.
Get the bus.
It's like throwing a ball to a secondary with like Ty Laws on one side, Darrell Reeves is on the other, Ed Reed is a safety, Troy Polamalu is the other one. Like that's literally what it's going to be. Ridiculous.
But you know what's going to happen because we've been talking about crazy ass Heat Twitter. What's going to happen is if he's right and he's out there playing closing minutes, it's going to be what? Oh, Tyler Hero sucks. He can't close.
Exactly.
He can't for that. No, man. Eric Spoelstra's trying to win basketball games. And why would you put Tyler Hero out there if you just need to get stops? Make stops and get free throws. That's all you have to do. Put people out there and get stops.
I can't wait to see. You can't target. You can't target Larry. You can't target Depot. You're not gonna target Jimmy. You'd be a fool to target Bam and really Tucker. Like I can't wait to see that lineup.
That's the honestly, if I have a rooting interest on what I want to see in the playoffs, I want to see the closing lineup with Depot in it because I love ugly basketball and I love defense. Like I just like shit. Like I, in a sick way, really enjoy that Heat Hornets game because I kind of like when it's like 86-86 toward the end and every possession matters. Like I kind of like that when it's really bogged down. I'm not into the super flashy shit because I think it fools people. Now all of a sudden, after people were shitting on DeMar DeRozan for years, he's everybody's fucking favorite player. Like out of nowhere, just because if people remember, like, oh, he can score. And it's like, yes, he's having a great regular season. We'll see come playoff time. I still don't really trust that team as a whole. And they got to get healthy too. Let's go into our this or that's with Sean because we got to throw a few at him, Timmy. I did prepare some. that you could participate in as well as always. But we're going to do this now as we sort of we regularly put our guests through this, Sean. So
okay,
if you have any questions, let us know. But I'm going to assume you're ready to go. Goran Dragic or PJ Tucker insurance?
Wow. I've been leaning more towards the Goran side of it. Is this like a one-word answer, and am I supposed to explain?
No, I mean,
you can talk about it. You can talk about it.
One word, and then
So,
like
I say Goran because
the M- explanation, however you want to do it.
Got it. I'm trusting, like you said earlier about Markieff not trading him, that they think he's coming back, and I think if he's back, then we have enough there. I don't expect anything out of Goran, but I believe having him around, whether it's just for a great influence on the bench or break in case of emergency where somebody gets hurt, you need just a spark, you can throw him in there and see what happens, but zero expectations.
I still don't really think they need him necessarily, but
no, I don't think they need him either.
So if Morris comes back, I would like Roger just to be on the bench for when we win the chip and he gets hurt. That's really why. Yeah, like I want another like a ring with us.
Maybe keep him going from somewhere else that might
be better. The real answer is ABC. Anything but Chris Silva. That's it. Keep the ABCs. Anything but Chris Silva. If Chris Silva comes back to the Heat, I might drop out, man. I might have to transfer to 5 Reasons on a different team.
He's the real Godfather because he has some dirt. If he comes back, he has some dirt in this team.
Haywood Highsmith or Chris Silva?
Oh, I mean that's easy. Haywood Highsmith. I would say that. I mean, not just about Chris Silva. I like Haywood Highsmith. He was up here on in Delaware in the Wilmington team,
and he played. He was a two-way, not a two-way. He was like a 10-day before the Sixers, I think.
Yeah, he's been solid. Yeah, he's got those long arms, man. He can like tie his shoes standing up. So I like the ability. He didn't look. He didn't look good in the Charlotte game. You saw him. I think he missed back-to-back free throws, and you could tell like.
And he missed like three wide open threes.
Yeah, he's a development guy. Like that's where I think like sometimes people get mad at guys like that. Like, come on, man. Like a week ago he was in Wilmington, Delaware, playing for the Bluecoats. And you're about to go after him. Like, come on. Like
he's thrown into a spot. It's hard to come through there. And look, they had he wouldn't have been playing all those minutes had they had Caleb and Tyler. Shit, just
Absolutely.
Caleb, really.
Just Caleb,
that's really the thing. Like to your point earlier, Sean, it's about like when you see guys overextending their roles for a sustainable period, it's tough to sustain like the great play that they had initially. Yep. Whose ceiling is higher, Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson?
I got to think about how I can frame my argument. No, I can't do it. Tyler, man. Tyler, he obviously showed a lot after this offseason where people were questioning him. He was in the gym. He works hard. That sounds like his character. That's why they drafted him. So I think his ability, because he can do so much more than Duncan, he can handle the ball. If he can grow a little bit on defense where he's not hunted as much, even get to a Duncan level, right? Duncan's not a bad team defender. He's not good, but he's not terrible.
He's on a negative. He's not gonna.
He tries. He just fouls a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
I hate on everybody.
Yeah, I hate that. Stop using your hands. Stop using your hands.
You got to work.
And then consistently, he looks at their official like, I didn't foul him.
Yeah,
like, dude, you had your hands on him the entire drive, and then he gets mad about it. But no, definitely Tyler.
What is Tyler Hero's ceiling?
Well, I hope he wins the 6th Man of the Year because I have a ticket for that. So, I think he can be an all-star. I think his role probably after this year is going to be a starter because I think they probably look like
you're going to extend him this summer. It has to be.
Yeah, and I think that's where they probably move on from Duncan because you're going to open up that spot unless you're going to find a way to start somebody in PJ's spot and kind of up the lineup, put Jimmy at the 4. That's the only other way you're going to squeeze him in there.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't like that, but I'm just thinking because I don't think Lowry is ready to step back yet. And I don't think Tyler Hero is a starting point guard. I think he's better served as a shooting guard.
No.
How do you feel about the Tyler and CJ McCollum comparisons?
I think that would be a good one. I mean, if he can get to that level, I think we would be happy. I think he could potentially get better. I mean, I wouldn't rule that out as young as he is, but that would be great. Multiple-time All-Star, great shooter, scorer, can handle and play point guard a little bit, but not exactly your team's starting point guard. I would take that.
And would you?
Higher ceiling between Duncan Robinson or Max Strus.
Oh, Duncan Robinson, it's not even close.
Oh.
And I like Max Strus. I think he's a good player. It's not even close. No.
Why
Duncan
is it not
Robinson,
close?
Well, I mean, obviously you can point towards the stats over the course of 2 years, however many 1,000 threes he's taken. The sample size is so big. But you could also argue that there's opportunity. If Max Strus had that same opportunity, could he do that? I think we're starting to see that when he's had a bigger opportunity, he's started to shrink a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that to be negative about Max, but I just think Duncan, because of his height, his ability to movement shoot. And I know you mentioned earlier, Bryan, about like the ability to put the ball on the floor and maybe get a floater or a pull up. That has to come. And I still don't understand, because he said himself on his podcast that he worked all summer long on
Like I've seen him. I'm like, shoot it. You have the space. Just do it.
Catch, put the ball in the air, one little shot fake, one dribble pull up, jump shot. You're going to get space. They're going to fly out at you. But I don't understand. He said he worked on it all summer, and he's done it like 12 times in 59 games. Yeah. Like, it doesn't make any sense. 3 of them in
Charlotte.
Exactly. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, that seems like the most obvious counter. You're such a good shooter. Give a little shot fake, 1 or 2 dribble, pull up, jump shot. You don't have to get into the lane, which he actually finishes pretty well. But I feel like that just simple shot fake, 1 dribble, 2 dribble, pull up, it would add so much to his game, make it so much harder to guard him.
How do you feel about the Max Strus does more arguments on Heat Twitter?
It's the dumbest thing I've ever. It is almost equally as dumb as putting Omer out there for more minutes because he fits so well next to Bam and all that stuff. Like Max Strus, it statistically isn't even correct. The stuff that he does, quote unquote, more like rebounding and assisting, and he creates for his own shot. No, like his assist percentages are higher. His shots made are assisted more often than Duncan. Like he doesn't do more.
Yeah. And
he certainly doesn't do more on defense besides get beat and not box out and give up rebounds.
Oh, he does not box out. My goodness.
Golly.
He does not box out.
Yeah. And I like him. I hate because you can't say stuff about, like, you can't critique a player anymore without being like a hater. Yeah. He has limitations in his game, and that's okay.
He did more in college than he's doing now, which is interesting, right? I do think that a lot of people are saying that he does more, didn't actually watch him at DePaul. But like at DePaul, like he had an offense basically built around his skill set. Now he's still shooting,
and in summer league too.
Right.
He was still shooting a lot of threes coming off screens or whatever. I feel like we haven't, more so than Duncan even, I feel like we haven't seen Max like really tap into that. But I'm not saying that to say that Max is going to become some special player. I think he's going to be probably a rotation NBA player who bounces around. Like, that's a good look. That you're still in the top 1% of basketball players in the world. That's still really good for somebody who was undrafted out of DePaul after playing Division II prior to that.
I actually could see him going home this summer. I mean, he's not a free agent, but I could see them like just send them to Chicago, who could use another shooter. But
they had him already, and they gave up on him.
They fumbled the bag. So while we're talking about Duncan and Hero and their youth and their ceilings, would you trade Tyler and Duncan for Bradley Beal this summer?
For Bradley Beal?
Yes.
No.
Me neither. I'm with you, Sean. Me neither.
I'm happy that we all agree.
Is there a player or two, or like what players would you package is worth packaging in your mind? Hero, Duncan, whatever salary filler you need, like an Omer or something like that. I don't know. Like depends on the player, and then multiple firsts.
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, that's what we've been saying. Yeah, that's what we've been saying.
I think him. The next person that would probably come into this discussion would be Dame. He's a little older. He's got that
that's my
thing.
That's my fear, because Drew Holiday had the same injury and surgery, and he got back to form. But he's also much younger than Dame was when he had it. Yeah,
doesn't play as high of a usage game either.
It would be very interesting to see. Well, and how would you play Dame and Kyle Lowry together?
Right.
You make it work, but I mean, Kyle would play off the ball, but I think his age and giving up that much. But I mean, if the Blazers called with that, Pat Riley is going to have a hard time.
Right.
This is Brian's favorite. What about Brandon Ingram?
Oh, that's who I want. I don't think they want to do it though, because I think they want to win, quote unquote. So.
Yeah, I would like to be able to know what Tyler does the rest of the season.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fair.
Because
Well,
if you tell me that Tyler Hero is going to be a multiple-time All-Star, isn't that pretty close to what Brandon Ingram is?
Facts. Just
But
taller.
I do,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. The length and the height, and I think you get him in Miami, he becomes a better defender instantly. He has the tools, he has the length. He was a better defender when he was in LA, and it slipped when he went to New Orleans because everything slips when you go to New Orleans.
and he has to create more offense. So
Exactly, and he wouldn't have to do that in Miami. I would, if you said right now I have to give you an answer, I'd probably say yes to Brandon Ingram because I think that's a player, and he's still so young.
Yeah, he's like 23, 24.
Yeah, I think you would have to do that one. I think Mitchell and Ingram, the other stuff, the Beal, Lillard, I don't think I would do.
Duncan Robinson's ceiling, what is it?
I mean, I think what he's providing right now, slightly better than that. Like I would say he's somewhere with a high volume of around like 39%, 38%. The shooting that he had a few years ago where he was like 44, 45.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
It's unreasonable to expect that to happen. He's had a down year, and I think he's sixth in the league in 3-point makes. And I think right now he's in like 36% roughly.
Yeah.
I think he thinks borderline 37. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I changed the sample size to make it always around 40. So I'm not actually sure what he really is shooting. I just always, as long as you move the sample size around a little bit, you figure it out. Like every Wednesday where it's partly cloudy, that's what he's shooting. You just figure it out. It takes a little while, but I've gotten good at it. So no, I think, 38, 39% shooter on volume. I think as his career goes further, he becomes a little bit better defender. But I think the volume will start to shrink a little bit, and maybe he becomes more like a 6th, 7th, 8th man, where like situationally you put him in there,
so
to stretch the floor,
like a Kyle Korver or like.
Yeah, I think a Kyle Korver.
Dude, you could compare him to Timmy. What do you think? Anthony Morrow.
Well, no, I had such high hopes for Morrow, but Morrow just could never get the minutes, man.
I thought he was gonna.
It's sad that we have to do this right now, right?
Yeah. See, because
gotta be a white guy.
I've been trying to do that, but people just like.
Well, it would be Buddy if people would, but every record Buddy breaks, Duncan comes and breaks it back after him. I'm like, wow, because Buddy was the quickest to 700 until Duncan did it last week.
I have 2 more for you, Sean.
Okay.
Well, 3 actually.
Okay.
You could extend only one of these guys. Who would it be? Gabe Vincent, Omer Yurtseven, Max Strus, Caleb Martin.
That's tough.
I would say, I mean, it's either, wow. I would say the bottom one is Strus.
Yeah.
Because I think you can find him. And I don't say that again to be negative about him, but I think you can find something like him. So then I would probably say I would extend Gabe, because I think you're going to get him on a cheaper contract than you would for Caleb. I think Caleb's going to get more money, like kind of like a DJJ type contract.
Yeah, for the Emily, yeah.
But Omer, I think you can still keep him at a cheap level. I think he still has some development to do. So it would be one of those 3. If I had to pick one, I would probably say Gabe.
Interesting. Timmy, what's yours?
I fluctuated between Caleb and Gabe. But I put Caleb like a 0.5 because he's Baum's best friend. That's why.
Gabe would have been dead last for me if we had this conversation
before
the season started.
Really?
Before
absolutely.
the season started.
Same.
If before the season started, he would have been dead last for me.
Yeah,
I did not.
In our chats, Brian was like, Gabe's not even going to play any minutes this year. Like,
yeah,
Brian
I'm like,
did not see for Gabe this year.
I don't think anybody thought that. But and that's crazy because I love smaller guards who could defend, because I was a smaller guard who could defend and could shoot threes and whatever. Gabe didn't have the shot until this year. He's established that. Now it's streaky, but this is kind of what it's going to be. But yeah.
What I love about Gabe is his emotions never change.
Yeah.
You just look at his face, not being in a game, watching on TV. His expression doesn't change if he's playing well, if he's playing poorly, if he just had back-to-back threes, if he just bricked back-to-back threes, if he just got scored on. It's always calm. And that's such a good trait, I feel like, for a point guard especially to have.
It's a sicko trait for a good on-the-ball defender to have, honestly.
Before Brian asks, Gabe Vincent or Jalen Brunson?
Oh no, Jalen Brunson, absolutely.
Nova.
Like he's good. Yeah, I watched him play in a pro league here this summer. He's so nasty. But Gabe Vincent could be that type of player. He could potentially get there. That I think would be his ceiling if we're talking about ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
But Brunson's just so strong as a guard.
Yeah.
That if you're telling me right now, I'd absolutely take Brunson.
I can't believe Cuban allowed them to not be restricted this summer. So I think they're gonna be a lot of hearts broken this summer. We know Brunson's gonna win, but we just don't know whose heart he's gonna break. Is it gonna be the Pistons or the Mavs? Or
I'd rather have him than Dorian Finney-Smith. Like if I'm picking between the two to pay, I'm paying Brunson for sure.
I can't believe that Finney-Smith was asking for a first round pick for him.
Yeah.
I would too. I love Dorian Finney-Smith, but I like Jalen Brunson more. And I'm in Big East country. I'm in New York City, so I got to see a lot of Jalen Brunson in college. Two more. We're already at an hour. Omer Yurtseven or Precious Achua?
Omer.
Yeah, that's Precious. I used to always joke during the pandemic's still going on, but like when the pandemic was raging, Precious was the safest person because he can't catch anything. Like he was never like
in the Rising Stars game. Precious could not catch a ball. The easiest pass I've ever seen.
I don't know how do you fix that.
I used to have a girl back in Hilton Head that couldn't catch as a post player, and we would do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I had like tennis balls. I'd be throwing two tennis balls at her. I'd have like a basketball bouncing at her. Like we just did stuff like that. I don't think that's going to work for Precious, but remember at the beginning of the season too, when Toronto fans were loving him. Like he was hitting threes. Like they were like, "Oh, we got to steal." Blah 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 blah. Like get out of here, man. Precious garbage.
Last one.
He's better than Chris Silva though.
Fact.
Last one. Does Bam ever need to become the number one option for this team to reach its height? And if so, by when?
Number one scoring option?
Yeah.
Yes.
He is for me in 2K, and I never lose. I never lose.
And people have to remember, if he does, it may take away a half from the defense, like a half step or whatever, because that's just how it works. It's hard to do both really high.
Timmy, you should post that on Twitter, man. There's a lot of people that would retweet that. You could question Spo, tell me you're a better manager than Spo. Do this on 2K. It works out. Here are his stats. These are my record.
I will.
You know what? The reason I asked scoring is because I would like everything to run through Bam, but not necessarily for him to shoot the ball. Like I think he can be the hub at the elbow area, the slot area. He can distribute. He can find shooters. You can cut off of him. Then he can get downhill in one dribble. That's where I feel like he probably will never be the number one option because his ability to create for other people so much more. But what's going to happen as Jimmy ages? Who's going to be the number one option? Kyle, he's aging too. Who do you think it should be? Is probably Tyler, right? That's the one that wants to be.
Well, really, like I think they may trade for it this summer, right? Like
it could be.
I think we all know at some point.
This season feels very much like 05. And you know what Riley did in 05. He did the biggest trade. When I say biggest trade, the most players ever in one trade in history. So this feels very 05, lose in the conference finals, big superstar trade, and someone to go for it.
See,
which is obviously subject to what happens this offseason. Like in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We have to see what happens and then he's going to react to it. But I agree, that's a good point.
Like that was debated in the pool party chat all over the place. See, an hour in. That was what was debated in the pool party chat before is like, how does Tyler's play the rest of the year indicate like whether or not he'll be traded? And the thing about if you look at their just salary cap chart, right? Gabe, Omer, and Max are all signed to next year. Caleb Martin, you have to figure that out. PJ Tucker has an option.
Yeah.
He has an option. He may opt out. And it's like Duncan Robinson, reasonably, for all the good things he does in terms of shooting and gravity and adding a little bit to his game, as we talked about, I think we could all guess if we had to gamble on it, whether or not he stays the duration of his contract here. It's probably not. And that's probably why he gave him such a big number, because they were probably we're going to need to use this chip along with whatever perhaps Tyler is at the time to sort of do something. Like I think we could all look at that and be like, all right, the number one scoring option regardless of who it is probably not even on the team right now, as far as like, after this season. That's what I think.
Yeah. If you installed a Ingram Mitchell type player, they're the number one option right away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And you could still run stuff through Bam, and
Sure.
because both of those guys could catch and shoot. Like, that's the thing. It's like, yo, Donovan, you don't have to do everything off the dribble now. You can, but like, why? You're 6'1", high usage basketball is good in the regular season, but in the playoffs, there's a long history that shows you that like has its limitations. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep.
So that's basically it. All right, Timmy, take us home. We've done 65 minutes.
Thank you, Sean. We got the truth about Duncan. the truth. We got your coaching history, and just so happy to get you. And we definitely gonna get you back on again before the playoffs. And this has been Bahamarican. I'm your co-host Timmy, and that's Bryan.
Yes. And Tuesday night, Feel the Heat crossover. Bahamarican boys, we're doing it again. We're doing it at around 7 p.m. is the tentative time. If we are 5 minutes or so late, that will be on me, because I have another show that I'm doing right before, and I'm going to be running over, just changing my setup. And yeah, that's about it.
That's network policy. We're always late. Ethan sets a standard for us.
Thank you, guys.
Clip that.
Thanks, Abuja, for taking over for us today, and see you next week.